Hello, everyone. I wish you a very good morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're seeing this video. That's the beauty of technology. You can see it anytime you wish. So, I'm Dr. Samir Devanji, working at AISSMS, and we are moving on with the series. I hope you found the time and inclination to watch Front Office Terminology 1, 2, and 3, where we've done some basics. I've said this often. I'll quickly say it again that I can't even begin to tell you the importance of technical knowledge, basics, and absolute foundation of your core subject. This is what is asked in the tests, exams. It holds you good in your careers and even at the beginning for your campus interviews. So we have had 3 videos covering up to 50 terms. As I said, when we did as simple a term like walk-in, we also quickly looked at the term chance guest, which is a synonym. Or when we said walking a guest, we also quickly looked at it also means relocating a guest or farm out. All right. So we've covered a lot of terms. Let's begin with fresh new terms. ARR. I don't know why we still get confused with this. If you just read the full form of the term well, you get the answer. Average room rate. All right. So if you've sold 2 rooms, you total the money you've collected divided by 2, and you know on an average how many rooms have you sold. So similarly for 500 rooms. So it is calculated by dividing the total room revenue by the number of rooms sold. So there's a formula given here. Please do not multiply it by 100. Please don't get confused with what. Just remember, the answer should be in money. So your numerator should be money also, right? Rupees, pounds, dollars, whatever. So total room revenue. How much money have you made from your rooms only? Divided by number of rooms sold. So remember this for life because you've understood it. All right. Do not mug it up. ARR, average room rate, you calculate it by dividing the complete money that you make from rooms, the total room revenue divided by number of rooms sold. Then we come to the other confusing part, room occupancy percentage. Now here percentage means into 100. So get that very clear. All right. And occupancy percentage means it tells you the percentage of rooms occupied vis-a-vis the number of rooms in your hotel. Now here you don't have any monies in the answer, right? So you don't divide any money by any money. Here you divide the number of rooms sold by number of rooms available. So you know percent. When you say you got so much percent, you say I got 45 marks out of 50. Both are marks. So similarly here, both are rooms. It's a very important statistic, but I'll take you to another important statistic in the next slide, which is even more important than room occupancy percentage, and tell you why. So coming back to room occupancy percentage revision, room occupancy percentage equals to total number of rooms sold divided by total number of rooms available into 100. All right. So remember this statistic. Now I come to a very important statistic, rev par. Yeah, revenue per available room, rev par. Again, if you read the full form well, it gives you the formula. Revenue per is divided by available rooms. So the total room revenue divided by number of rooms available. Please understand ARR formula was rooms revenue divided by number of rooms sold. We only consider the sold rooms. Here we consider all rooms of the hotel, sold, unsold. All right. Now, why is RevPAR the more real statistic, or it gives you the real picture? I'll tell you why. When you look at room occupancy percentage, even if 5 rooms are sold, you get, you get, you just come to know how many rooms are sold. In ARR, you just come to know out of the sold rooms, what is your average room rate. But you don't know the other thing, in each of these formula. For instance, in ARR, we don't know how many rooms are sold. So occupancy percentage. I may have sold 2 rooms at a fantastic rate, but remaining 10 rooms are vacant. So ARR gives you half the picture. Room occupancy percentage, yes, tells you out of your 10-room property, your hotel is 10 rooms, say. So out of that, you've sold 8 rooms. It tells you that, wow. But it hides the other fact that how much money did you sell? Did you really discount it too much? So that again gives the half picture. So I repeat, ARR tells you the average room rate, but doesn't tell you the occupancy. Occupancy gives you only how many rooms sold. It doesn't tell you the rate. But RevPAR is a wonderful statistic that gives you both. It gives you how many rooms sold and an idea of, because if your RevPAR is high, you know you're doing well. As simple as that. Because it takes into account both the room revenue as well as the occupancy. So this is an important statistic. It combines both, so to say. All right, enough of formulae. Now we come to DBR, Daily Business Report. Ask any hotelier every morning meeting that they have, the GM and the key HODs or all the HODs. Every morning there's a meeting and they discuss primarily, of course, guests and issues and stuff, but DBR is discussed, Daily Business Report. This is made by the finance department, the accounts, as we say, and this gives you the entire picture of what happened yesterday. And then, of course, month to date and year to date and last year's and budgeted and all those figures are also there. So it tells you how many rooms you sold, at what rate, it tells you how much money you made in which restaurant, which outlet, in-room dining, what were the expenses, what were the things that you spent, and you got the entire picture, the electricity consumption, water, you name it, and it's there in your DBR, which is Daily Business Report. All right. So it is a report that is generated after the night audit and gives detailed figures on the hotel's financial performance for the previous day. Very important to study it well, the DBR, Daily Business Report. Room change, simple. Of course, the guest wants a room change. He's already allocated a room. He spent a few hours or maybe one day in that and he wants a room change. Now, why? The reasons may vary. All right. So it could be from your side that you suddenly have a lot of guests checking in the next day and you want to upgrade your existing guests. So you ask the guest, sir, we have a lot of bookings for the base category and we would love to upgrade you as a special guest. And you can, if he's okay, you can upgrade, of course. Sometimes the guests don't want the upgrade, they don't want to shift from the room. But more often, room change is for issues that are beyond the control of the hotel. Suddenly, a maintenance issue, the air conditioner is not working properly, or something is not working in the room, and you can't fix that in a couple of hours. You need some serious work there. All right, it could be that. So, or it could be a noisy room. Now, noisy in the sense there could be an adjoining guest who, in spite of requests, has not lowered his volume, or there could be, it could be a room closer to the elevator and the guest has not realized it in the first few hours, or any other reason. Sometimes the guests are superstitious also, so we don't know. So room changes happen due to various reasons. uh, Sometimes maybe a guest has a couple of guests, maybe his wife and child is joining him, so he wants a higher category or a bigger room or a spacious room or a suite. Now there is an SOP, proper SOP, standard operating procedure, for room change. All right. And we try to ensure that the room change happens as seamlessly, as perfectly as possible, without the slightest inconvenience to the guest. All right. So you ensure you keep everything in the room the way it was. The guest's luggage, slippers, his toiletries in the bathroom, everything the way he's kept his earlier room, you try to replicate it exactly. If there were 2 clothes hanging in the wardrobe on the hangers by the guest, you ensure you do the same. So you try to replicate it. That's the key. So attention to detail is very important in a room change. Sorry. So this is room change. Now we come to another interesting term, dead room change. No, the guest is not dead. The room change, which is done in the absence of a guest, but with her permission, is dead room change. So room change can be either in the presence of the guest or in the absence. Sometimes it's too inconvenient for the guest. He's busy. So he says, listen, I'm going out anyway for work. I have meetings the whole day. Why don't you change the room when I'm not there? I'm fine with it. All right. So you do a dead room change then when the guest is not there, but with his or her permission. All right. Very important is to check also the in-room safe or the L safe, whatever you have, because the guest may have put something in it. It could be some money, it could be passport, it could be, and you need to ensure that when you change the room, especially for a dead room change. So again, there's a proper SOP that you follow, and after the room change, you have to inform all the hotel or the entire other departments of the hotel, and change it on the system. So it seems very simple, but it has a lot of implications. So changing it on the PMS, so that POS and every F&B service and housekeeping and front office and maintenance, everybody knows it. And then also informing the departments, all right, so that they know. Now, a very interesting term, moment of truth. You see hoteliers talking about it, and you must use it whenever to impress in an interview or otherwise. Now, whenever the guests have a chance to make an impression about the hotel, good or bad, that is a moment of truth. So there are hundreds of moments of truth during a stay. I see an advertisement of a hotel in a magazine, I make an impression. I see a hoarding, I make an impression. I call up the reservations, I make an impression. I uh, the airport representative is standing with my placard, I make an impression. I get into the car, I make an impression. The state of the car, the way the chauffeur talks to me, what I'm offered in the car, water or a refreshment or a nice tissue, wet tissue. So everything, so check in, check out, stay, every small step makes an impression. The way the staff interacts with me, their expressions, their uniform, all these are moments of truth. So you can imagine hundreds of moments of truth every day or each stay the guest has. So it is a moment where a guest has a chance to make an impression about the hotel. All right, that's a moment of truth. So you have to work for these moments of truth. Float, the cash kept at the front desk. Nowadays, there's no cashier and reception and information separately. So you can say front desk or front desk cashier for all transactions during a shift. So it's a float. It's usually, it could be for a smaller hotel, 50,000 or 1 lakh or 2 lakhs of rupees in the Indian scenario, where you keep that ready for foreign exchange or for guests who are paying by cash or for any transactions that may follow. All right. So you need to have a cash float at the reception front desk so that you can transact. Now you have to give an entire step by step budget, step by step monies in the handover of the shift. So you have to give the entire transactions that have happened and ensure that the float is matching. So you take handover of 50,000, say for example, and you ensure you give 50,000 back. It may not be completely in cash, but if it's less, you know that so much amount is VPO, visitors paid out, or so much amount was foreign exchange, so much amount was returned, etc. If it's more, obviously you know that this more is because the guest paid his room bill by cash. So you have to have the complete understanding of float. We come to terms which are not strictly front office, but you must know them. These are HR terms. You need to know what is the job description. Whenever anybody asks you that would you like to work somewhere, you need to know the job description so that you know whether you fit in. All right. So typically every hotel, good hotel, has a job description for each designation. All right. What are the tasks and duties? So duties and responsibilities of a particular job position is job description. So the front office associate, duty manager, guest relations, or in housekeeping, the room attendant, the the housekeeping supervisor, executive housekeeper, laundry assistant. Everybody has a job description. All right. Yeah, that's the Batman job description. Job specification. Now, again, these two terms are confusing, but just remember that job specification specifies the person required. So, if you remember that, I remember it that way. So, job specification specifies the kind of person required for that job. When you describe the job, you know exactly. If it's a bell desk, you know you need somebody who's strong because there's luggage to be carried. All right, you can't have somebody really frail with a bad back, maybe. I'm just saying a very simple physical attribute point. All right, so job specification then is a list of qualities and qualifications. All right, that are required. So your how much work experience, what are the minimum educational qualifications required, what are the personal traits or qualities required. These are specified into a job specification. So job description describes the job. Specification specifies the person required for the job. Both very important. Only then can you apply or can you solicit applications, right? If as an HR manager you have both in place, or as a front office manager, executive housekeeper, you're very clear about this, only then can you look for candidates because you're very clear about your job description and job specification. Concierge, French term, but concierge is what we call it. Now, concierge, this concept originated in Europe, which concierge were castle doorkeepers, keeping the entire property and its occupants safe. But over the years, it changed to be a designation in a hotel. So leading hotels of the world, it started in 1930s with Waldorf Astoria, New York. The leading hotels have a designation called concierge, not so much in Indian hotel chains, but mostly all the foreign chains, whether European or American, have a designation called concierge. A concierge is a person who takes care, who provides personal service to all guests and takes care of all guest requests, some very unusual requests also. All right. So there's a book on concierges which says that one guest wanted an entire car gift wrapped. All right. Or a guest wanted a ticket to a sold out concert. Now, these are very difficult and unusual, but a concierge does all this. All right. So, concierge is a person to provide personalized guest service. Mystery shopper. Now, mystery shopper, mystery guest, mystery audit, all these terms, if you know the concept, you know them. A guest who's auditing the hotel without disclosing his or her identity is called a mystery shopper or a mystery guest. Now, almost all five-star hotels have an audit, mystery audit, where all the processes, all the SOPs are audited and they don't know when it happened. When they get the report, they come to know, oh, this was an auditor and we were audited. All right. And only that day, maybe the front office associate was yawning, or that day the housekeeping person didn't have his uniform correct or well ironed, or only that day you had one uh, item missing in the room in terms of guest supplies, but you know it's done. So you have to ensure that you follow the SOP every single time. You can't follow the standard operating procedure for 100 guests and then 101th, you forgot to ask for the passport, and that turns out to be the auditor. All right. So a mystery auditor or mystery shopper is that guest that the hotel chain or the company or the head office employs or contracts with. So you are actually paying money for them to audit you and tell you how you're faring. All right. So this is a mystery audit. The hotel chains that I have worked with, one hotel chain had the mystery audit every quarter. So every 3 months, one hotel chain had it twice a year. All right. And they really recruit the top companies like Ritchie or Shawman worldwide to do these mystery audits. It's a very, very systematic audit, and almost every area is audited, right from your uh, swimming pool to health club to your restaurants to in-room dining, of course, check-in, check-out, all that procedure is common for all guests. But they will probably will ask you to send a fax through your business center and everything so that it's absolutely clear that every area is audited. Nowadays, mystery shopping happens for a lot of a few days, a few months back. I got a request to audit a luxury car showroom. All right. Restaurant audits are also very common, the standalone restaurants. All right. But today they want you to audit uh, a leading shoe brand shop. How does the salesman at the shop greet you? Does he show you all the range? Does he try to upsell? All right. So, depending on their training, everything is mystery shopped today. High balance account, it seems like an unusual term. Guess whose bill has exceeded an amount pre-decided by the hotel. Now, some guests tend to run up a long bill or a high amount bill, you know. So the advance that you've taken or the authorization that you've taken on the credit card doesn't seem enough. Now, this is especially in long stayers. Long stayers, we need to, at the beginning, tell them or have a contract or have an understanding that weekly, every Saturday, you will slip a bill under that door, or you'll keep it in the room in an envelope. And every Sunday or Monday, they will settle the dues so far, because you don't want the bill running in lakhs really. But this is very important, that high balance accounts you need to address. It's a tricky thing. The guests may feel offended and say, I'm not running away, I'm staying here for a month, what's wrong with you? So you have to say it in a very, very polite way, and you have to use tact, of course. All right. And if the guest really objects, you can say, so it's a hotel policy and we need to do partial settlement of your account. So may I please request you to, at your convenience, to do it. All right. So always ensure that as a manager, you have your eyes on these guests who run up high bills, especially long stays. We come to two last simple terms, D and D. You all know it's do not disturb, or it's also, some hotels now say my time or me time. They say privacy please. So different door hanging knobs nowadays, on the knobs. It depends, yeah. But basically, it is do not disturb. Nowadays, of course, it's mechanized, or there's a button that you switch on, and that flashes a light outside the room door saying that it's on DND if it's red. And once it's on DND, you can't ring the bell. Even if you ring the bell, it doesn't ring, of course. And even the other things, then you don't want to disturb the guest with. Sometimes it's good to also check if the guest wants his phone on DND. All right, depends. So do not disturb is when the guest has a very important meeting in the room, or he wants some privacy, or he wants to sleep after a jet lag. All right, and not be disturbed by anybody replenishing fruits, replenishing the minibar, coming to turn down service in the room, or any other amenities to be kept in the room. Yeah. And the last term for the day is SPATT, special attention. Now, here, of course, you'll say every guest is SPATT or SPAT. No, yes, of course, every guest is special. But here, some guests you really give special attention, or HWC, handled with care. Now, what is that handled with care? It is a guest who requires special attention due to various reasons. But the most common reason is the guest who's had a complaint earlier, or somebody who's really very fussy. All right. So a VIP or a fussy guest or a guest who's had complaint earlier, you really ensure that your antennae are up, and you really ensure that every departments know this is a special attention guest. All right, so these are the terms that we discussed today. I hope it was interesting for you to learn some terms like moment of truth or dead room change. I hope you know exactly, you'll never forget ARR, RevPAR, and occupancy percentage. I hope you know now DBR, and you can use daily business report in your conversations with hoteliers, and you know all the other terms that we did. I hope you become so good in your careers that you also start do mystery shopping. You know, the hotel companies ask you to be a mystery auditor or a mystery shopper with them. All right. Some references, and there's a quiz at the end in the description. Please follow that. I hope you've enjoyed the session. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention, and thank you most importantly for your commitment to be an excellent hotelier. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.